put on my glasses because I tell you, vision is way better than vanity. It is my honor to be here today. I've got so much on my mind, and I didn't know that presenting here today would relieve my soul. God truly works in mysterious ways. When I was first made aware that you'd like me to say a little something this morning, I checked my calendar and saw that I had another speaking event on schedule for the Juneteenth weekend. I also wrote Rector Wilmer and asked if I could do a moderated interview. That format makes it a little easier on the speaker and it's probably more entertaining for audiences. Rector Wilmer kindly told me that the event was on June 19th in the morning, so I knew I could do it. And she was willing to modify the format to more of a conversation if I in fact wanted to do a moderated interview. Let me tell you exactly what she said. And I quote, "The event begins with a short community march from St. John's Church." Did anybody do the march this morning? Right. Amen, amen. Begins with a short community march from St. John's Church to the Peter Paul Development Center, followed by an interfaith worship service at 10:30 a.m. Since it's a service with prayers, readings, and music, we had envisioned your message taking the form of a homily or address rather than a fireside chat format. That said, your style and voice are important to us, so if there's a way to incorporate conversational elements while still keeping the tone appropriate for the setting, I'd be very open to exploring that. So the first thing I did was pencil in the date and noted that I could make it. Next, I looked up homily to be sure I was not biting off more than I could chew. My calendar and my dictionary gave me the all clear. The next key approval came from my wife, Miss Jackie Stone, and the final approval came from God. Amen. I prayed over the decision. I responded to Rector Wilmer that I think I can make that work, happy to deliver a homily about love and understanding. I've been thinking a lot about that. Yes, lock it in. So let's begin. I can't tell you how big of a deal it is to let go of your tried and true game plan, to adjust, to give into the flow of life, to trust God, to have a little faith. Turns out it's a pretty big deal. We all lean on what we know to navigate the world. Right or wrong, it is a human tendency to cling to what we think we know and believe. Accordingly, how we see the world and the people in it explains a lot about how we choose to engage others. For example, I'm inspired by ancestors like Ida B. Wells to embrace everyone. She once told her grandchild, when asked why she risked her life for people she might never meet, what she said was profound. She said that her faith gave her courage and tells her that in each person there is at least one chord of decency. And if she could strike that chord with truth, it would sound in justice and in righteousness. How I wish we had a little bit more faith today. I recently spoke at Harvard Law School and followed that with a lecture at the University of Virginia on the power of good data and stories. I asked the students, what do Santa Claus, the Easter Rabbit, and the Tooth Fairy have in common? After a few quiet minutes, a brave student said, they are the fairy tales we tell children. I said, correct. These are the things we tell children, and they believe us as the authorities in their lives. Further, I said, they are also things that each of us believed in at one point or another in our lives. Some of you may still believe in them, but I hope not in the same way you did as a child. You're studying to become future leaders, and you must learn the truth as our nation, and in many cases the world, will count on you to help it to heal. Then I drew a large square on the board and filled it with holes of varying sizes. And I asked the students what it was. And someone guessed cheese, and I said, yes, very good. What kind of cheese? The class said, Swiss cheese. And I said, correct. See how smart you are? I told them this cheese was their life, our collective lives, our history, our story. I told them that the holes in the cheese are where we put the lies we are told, the stereotypes, the fairy tales. Whether they are about imaginary creatures, things we do not understand, or people we do not know. Our worldview, our cheese, is shaped by the data and stories we pile up in these holes. These falsehoods stay there until we replace them with something better, like science and verifiable truth. As children, it was okay to believe in childish things. However, as adults, as the future leaders of the world, it is our duty to fill in the holes of the Swiss cheese if we are somehow to transform our homeland into a whole slice of American cheese. As for me, I'd love a full slice, please. This is what God put in my heart to share with you today. We are all on a journey to fill in the Swiss cheese of life. We each must fill in the holes where things don't quite add up. We are all on a journey to make this existence, this life, make sense. The best way I know how to make sense of life is to get out into the messiness of the world and engage with it. Interact with all of it. Do something you love with someone you don't usually do it with. Be curious. You will learn something when you do. You will find new friends. You will find new ways of doing things, of understanding. You will find love. You will find God. I learned recently from a great spiritual mentor, Reverend Dr. John W. Kennedy, that God's starting point is diversity. No set of fingerprints in your family are the same. No animal, no plant, no rock formation is exactly the same. Even identical twins have different fingerprints. God made us all different. The trillions of snowflakes that have fallen since the beginning of time and forevermore all have a different pattern. All of them different. Why? Why? Because God's starting place is diversity. And it is our job as people of faith to engage each other and benefit from that diversity. In fact, if you have a problem with diversity, you likely have a problem with God. I'm just saying a little something. But when we interact across the diversity, we create a divine harmony which leads to love. God is love. Whether it be interacting with nature or amongst ourselves as human beings, it is our duty to come together, to love one another. This is not a political statement. You can be right wing or left wing or anything in between. But note that both wings are on the same bird called America. And we will never fly as high as we should if those wings don't work together. I don't make the rules, but isn't it marvelous that somehow God would have us to come together for the betterment of all, for Christ, who teaches us to love all. Somehow we could reach the zenith of our potential because we chose to walk anointed together in love rather than in fear. I am in alignment with my assignment this morning. This is why I am so happy today. It is because you are here and we are giving ourselves, giving love a chance. No matter your faith tradition, I think we all can agree that God's grace is a wonderful thing. Is that right? Again, I'm so happy to be here this morning, and I hope you are too. You woke up. No matter how crazy things might seem sometimes, life is something to celebrate every day, because waking up is the great gift, the great much that we are given. If we have life, we can fix, heal anything with God's help. Why then do we celebrate Juneteenth? Because it's the day that many of my ancestors were made aware that they had been emancipated, freed from the bondage of chattel enslavement. In fact, they had been free for some time per the Emancipation Proclamation signed by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863, but they did not know it. Morally corrupt souls kept the news of their freedom from them, so they would not know the truth. It is fact that in the case of Juneteenth, as in most things in life, the truth really does set us free. There will be some that still want to hold on to the life they believe centers them. Some think it's hate, but Gandhi was right. It's really fear that is our common enemy, not hate. We have gotten too comfortable with fearing others, fearing differences. We must work together to achieve freedom from fear, freedom to learn, freedom to challenge inherited myths and lost causes, our fairy tales. This work is the crucible for recognizing Juneteenth in its most expansive form. I'm inviting you this morning to join me in striving towards freedom as more than a moment in history or some box on your individual checklist to track your passage through time. Juneteenth helps us to appreciate freedom as an ongoing, contemporaneous, collective responsibility. Achieving true freedom requires an interdependent call to action, loose from the yoke of fear-driven individualism and nullification of the dreaded other. A healthy U.S., by definition, requires all of us to be great. We can't be all we could be without each other. This is why I say fear is the enemy and we are the cure. We fear what we don't know or don't yet understand. We fear that people might do to us what we have done to them. Therein lies the grave danger when governments ban books. They want you to believe in their fairy tale. It's the story that centers them in their fears. Have you ever noticed that the people banning or burning books throughout the history of the human species have never been the good guy? Have you noticed that when people under their charge are asked to choose a leader, they almost always choose the thief? Seriously. I remind you that when Pontius Pilate asked the crowd, "Who should I let go?" they shouted, "Barabbas the thief." And now, some 2,000 years later, people are still choosing the thief. Let that sink in for a moment. We can do better. We must do better. The antidote is not killing knowledge or banning books, banning stories that have become inconvenient. The antidote is reading. The antidote is learning. The antidote is coming out from the cloak of darkness and walking into the light of truth. Rather than banning books, we should be teaching the truths they offer about the contributions of all of God's creatures. The antidote is us. When we tackle willful unknowing with love, we can all be free. So I ask you today, where is my cheese? Where is our cheese? Have we filled in the holes of history? Do we have the reliable data and information that helps us to traverse the journey? Are we who God made us to be? Today, right now, an 18-year-old can go into a store and buy one rifle or shotgun a month. Now that's down from one a day, thanks to Governor Doug Wilder. However, they can legally buy one deadly weapon a month at 18 years old, right now in Virginia. Also right now, counties in Greater Richmond, places where some of us live today, are banning books. Too often these books are about or by my ancestors. books that include the struggle of my people to help make America great. I ask you, beloved guests, how do we heal a nation that's willing to tell its young people they are strong enough for weapons but too weak for words? Let me say that one more time for the people who may be waking up in the back. I say, how do we heal a nation that is willing to tell its young people that they are strong enough for weapons, but too weak for words? Let me tell you how we heal. We've got to love each other. Amen. We have to go on the journey we ask our children to go on when it's time for them to grow up. When it's time for them to let go of the fairy tales. We have to learn to be better. We have to lean into our faith. We have to lean into love. We have to lean into each other. We can't be more afraid of diversity than a dictatorship. We have to fill in the holes of our Swiss cheese if we are ever to have a whole slice of America, for I too am American. As I was starting out, I had to fill in the Swiss cheese of my life. I had no idea that people like me created anything of value to humanity. Let me give you just a couple of examples. Did you know that the manufacturing method for the carbon filament, the part of the light bulb that glows, it also made light bulbs last longer and made them more affordable for everyday folk? Well, that was invented by someone who looks like me. His name was Louis H. Latimer. He wrote the very first book in the world on incandescent lighting and led the projects to light New York, Philadelphia, Montreal, and London. He was invited to become a member of the prestigious Edison Pioneers. However, this great example of humanity is rarely mentioned when we talk about lights. His enslaved parents lived in Norfolk, Virginia. In 1842, they escaped to Boston so their children would be born free and their prodigious son could literally light up the world for everyone forever. God is in the details. Did any of you use GPS to get here today? What would we do without it, right? Well, did you know that a woman who looks like me from Dinwiddie County, Virginia, just 30 miles down the road, invented GPS? That's right. Dr. Gladys Brown West invented GPS. She's still alive and lives in Fredericksburg, Virginia. She'll be 95 this year. It's not in our history books. Children don't ask why. Adults should ask why. It is our duty to ask why. If we want a world where every child gets to grow up and become who God made them to be, you have to ask why some things are the way they are. Then you have to do something about what's wrong so that our nation can heal. As we heal ourselves, we can bring healing to the world. Let me close with this. I'm inspired today to tell you that everything is going to be okay. We can do better together. Most of us want the same thing, to live a life full of the love and the joy that makes as many days as possible feel like home. There's nothing wrong with that. It is true. There is no place like home. I'm pleading with you to get out, to embrace other cultures, to learn more about your own culture, and to let go of the fairy tale. Do the work required to be who God made you to be. Fill in the holes of your Swiss cheese with good information informed by real facts and truth. The truth really does set us free. And like it or not, the truth will always include people like me and people like you. I love each and every one of you this morning for allowing me to stand before you to share these brief remarks. I hope they leave you inspired. I hope you are hopeful about tomorrow. We are all kindred. I hope you have a little more faith. We are all brothers and sisters trying to find our way home. Thank you.